Hey, my name is Dr. Harry McCleary, and thanks for clicking on my video. This is our first time meeting. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and a Navy veteran, and I spend most of my week treating active duty service members with PTSD. So you've been stuck at home for a while, and the people at home are starting to get on your nerves, and you're trying to stop yourself from going off on somebody, or trying to stop yourself on going off on somebody again. Well, let's talk about it. One of my most favorite things that I've been able to do over the years doing mental health treatment is running an anger management group with very angry veterans that only know how to express anger and feel like all of the rest of the emotions are either unneeded, unhelpful, or maybe don't even exist. So I wanted to share some of this knowledge with you guys that are struggling with anger building up, combined with all the stressors that are going on related to COVID-19, not being able to get out of the house, not being able to utilize some of the coping skills that are outside in the environment, and being in a situation in which you're around people, the same people, for an extended period of time in a very condensed environment where you feel like you can't escape. And if you've ever been on a Navy deployment on a ship, you already know what this feels like. Before I talk about some tools to help you manage your anger, I want to talk a little bit about my philosophy on anger management, because my philosophy on anger management is a little bit different than a lot of the curriculum on anger management or a lot of the classes on anger management. And what I mean by that is I don't believe in going from 0 to 100 real quick, as Drake would say. And nobody, please, in the comments, do not say that I look like Drake, because I do not. I don't believe in this statement. What I do believe is that there are a lot of people that are at 99 already and walking around at 99, and then they don't have a lot of buffer room before they get to 100. They didn't just spring from 0 to 100. It might have felt like that because they're used to already being at a high speed, but really they're already stressed out. They're already angry. They're already thinking about how they're going to support their family during this time, and that's on their mind. So very few of us are starting at 0. And I might even argue none of us are. A lot of anger management techniques typically revolve around somebody not going off on somebody not doing something that is going to send them to jail. And mind you, those things are very important. I don't want anybody watching this to go to jail. However, I feel as though too much emphasis is placed on just not getting to that next level where you're going to do something that's going to cause you or someone else harm. Really, if we're looking at this on a scale from 0 to 10, 10, you're going off and you're doing something that may be out of character or may cause yourself or someone else harm. And 0 is you're floating on air. You're feeling good. Everything in life is great. I'd argue most of us, especially during this time, are not at that 0. So most people fall somewhere in between 9 and 1. But for many people, they wake up at an 8 or a 9. They already have so much stress on their life that they woke up angry. And then you can really only spend the rest of the day trying to avoid something from happening, which is something that we cannot do. something will eventually happen that's going to set you off. So much emphasis on in treatment ends up being, oh, well, if somebody's at 9, let's make sure they don't get to 10. Okay, important. However, I believe the real work is taking somebody that is at a 9 and getting them to 8, getting them to 7. Because now you have some buffer room in there when things go bad. When somebody cuts you off on the highway. When you're in the doctor's office and you feel like they're not listening to what you're saying. When your kids, are doing all the many things that make us angry. You have some buffer room there to where you can still make a rational decision and a healthy decision that doesn't cause you to do something that you're going to regret. I can spend all day going over different anger management techniques, but for this video, I want to focus just on a couple techniques, and I'm going to utilize one technique that's going to help those people that are at a 9 not get to that 10, and another technique that is going to help people create a little bit of buffer room that we talked about. The first technique is called thought stopping, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It is stopping your thoughts from getting you into trouble. And what I mean by this is that internal dialogue that we often experience when we're angry, or we see an experience that makes us angry, and then we start telling ourselves things about it. Oh, this person did this on purpose. I'm about to do this to this person. Oh man, they moved to the right too quick. I'm going to do this. Thought stopping is a technique in which you tell yourself something that pauses you for a moment. It pauses you from making that reaction, and it stops that kind of cascade of thoughts going through your head that may cause you to eventually get to that 10. Some examples of those might be, well, this isn't worth it. Or, I ain't got time for that. Or if I'm going to use one that a veteran once said, this is just some dumb shit. Utilizing these go-to phrases in a moment in which you are about to do something that might not be in your best interest is going to help you not get to that 10 where we don't want to be. Another one that I use is they don't know. And this can be interpreted two different ways. It can be interpreted as the other person that is making me angry has no idea that I'm having a bad day. They have no idea that I have PTSD. They had no idea that my dog died this morning. They don't know these things. And if they did, maybe they wouldn't be treating me in the way that they're treating me. Another way to interpret the thought-stopping statement of they don't know is they don't know what's about to happen. They don't know that I'm at the edge right now. They don't know that I'm already thinking about what I'm about to do to this person and that I'm willing and ready to do this. They don't know. And if they did know, they probably wouldn't be talking to me in that manner. I'm not saying this is me, but it might help somebody else. The next technique I wanted to go over is how to take a timeout. And I recognize that a lot of people feel like they know how to take a timeout. But this is a little different than giving your kids a timeout or stepping away from conversation. And I know this because I know that this is how a lot of people do a timeout when they're having a difficult conversation. That is not taking a timeout. We're not taking a timeout in the way that I am explaining taking a timeout. Taking a timeout is a step-by-step process. And one of the most important steps, because typically taking a timeout exists when there's another person going on, egging you on or making you angry, is letting that person know that you're taking a timeout. Letting somebody know that this conversation is important, but in order for me to really be present and being able to listen and be able to respond in a manner that's going to help both of us, I need to take a few minutes. And when I say take a few minutes, I do mean let somebody know when you're going to come back. Because it's going to give people some perspective. It's going to give people some expectation of when you can come back. Hey, can we talk about this tomorrow? I need to take a walk around the block before I come back to this conversation. Is that okay? Can I get 20 minutes? Can we talk about this after I get back from work? Those type of things, letting people know when and where you're going to come back to the conversation. Because if you just walk away from a situation and never come back, that's not a timeout. To use a sports analogy, if you're in the game and you take a timeout, that doesn't mean the game's over. It means that you're taking a break in order to get yourself together, maybe plan for what is coming in the future, and then get back in the game. Just walking away and never coming back is retreating. And that's not what we're doing right now. The next step is actually taking the time out. So actually removing yourself from the conversation or the environment for a certain amount of time. Now, I recognize that that's going to be hard now, but going to another room, going to another part of a room, if you're living in an apartment, going in the hallway, but getting away from the actual environment is going to be important. And equally important to taking this time out is what you're going to actually be doing during this time out. And this is where a lot of people go wrong. People take a time out, but in the process of taking the time out, they end up making themselves more angry. They're pacing back and forth. They're going in their mind about how they're going to address the conversation and throw everything that the other person has done in their face. They're saying to themselves many things along the lines of, oh, well, this person did this and they did it on purpose. And you start to go in this, vicious cycle of just making yourself more and more angry, which depletes the purpose of the timeout. So when you're taking a timeout, what you really want to do is focus on the things that are going to give you some buffer room, the things that are going to give you some time. Go get a glass of cold water. Go get some fresh air. Go remove yourself from the situation. Go play with your kids if your kids are part of the thing that's making you so angry. What you do during the timeout is just as important, if not more important, than actually taking the time out itself. Because what you're doing in a timeout is not just putting time in between the time in which something sets you off and the time in which you react. Sure, that's a part of it. But the goal of taking the time out is to calm yourself down. Get from that 9 to an 8 or a 7 or maybe even a 6 so you can come back to the situation and make a better decision. The last step in the timeout is actually coming back. You have to come back in order for it to be a timeout. And I'm going to give you this bonus tip right now. And that's, if you're not calmed down, if you're not feeling in a better headspace than you were when you left, then you don't need to come back right now. The time to come back is when you are actually in a better headspace to make a better decision. And time does not necessarily dictate that. What we do during that time dictates that. And it's okay if you said, I need 20 minutes, and at 20 minutes you still feel like you can't make a good decision in a conversation or an environment. If that's the case, I encourage you to go and let the other person know that. Hey, I thought I could do 20 minutes, but I think I need a full hour. Being able to communicate that is going to be important. But never come back to a situation after a timeout more angry than you left. That depletes the purpose. The amount of time that you need for a timeout is the amount of time that it takes you to get yourself into a better headspace. And until you are in a better headspace, it's not time for you to come back. I hope this video was helpful for you, and if you found it helpful, please go ahead and click the like button. And please, if it was helpful for you, that means it was probably going to be helpful for someone else. So if you know somebody who may be struggling with their anger, maybe it's even the person that you're angry at right now, I ask that you share it with them, because at the end of the day, that's all this is about. One veteran, one person trying to help another.